All right, here we go. So this is Revenue Roadmap, where we talk about driving revenue in local businesses. I'm Anthony Karls, president of Rocket Clicks. Today I am with Matt Hawker. Thank you for being with us today,
Yes,
Matt.
sir.
So today we're going to continue our conversation that we had last time, talk about one of our big pillars here at Rocket Clicks, which is leadership training and development. You help participate in that. You lead one of our workshop series that we run here internally called Transforming Team Communication.
Yep.
So we're going to talk a little bit about that, what it is, why it's important, and how it helps drive revenue in businesses. So, big question before we start is, why do you
Yes,
like
sir.
melon hats?
Why do I like? I do. I love melon hats. They're a little on the pricey side for a hat, but you get what you pay for. So melon hats, uh, this is not an endorsement, but I would endorse them. Uh, they are waterproof, first of all. So I have a bald head. Okay. I also live in Iowa and I like to swim. Those things don't mix if you don't have any hair. So I wear my melon hat. They're waterproof. So first of all, that's amazing. Second thing is it's also really, really hot. And when you sweat, normal hats, they leave like a salt ring around, not melon hats. They don't stain. Melon hats don't sweat, don't have no sweat stains. So and they just look cool. So those are the reasons why I love melon hats.
Yeah, Matt's been talking about them since he started. Bought my
Yep,
first one. I thought I'd wear it for this podcast just to support Matt and his endeavor to advocate for them. So,
appreciate
all
that.
right. So let's talk about transforming team communication. So that's one of our workshops we run here. It's all about leader. One of the things we believe here is if we're going to grow, our team's got to grow. One of the ways we help our team grow is through leadership development. So one of those programs we run that every team member here needs to go through is called Transforming Team Communication. So Matt, what is this overall? How does it fit into Rocket Clicks here?
Absolutely. So transforming team communication is part of Giant, which we talked about last time. And basically it's a series of workshops where we lead our team through each one of these series to help them understand what their leadership voice is, to help them understand how their voice communicates and interacts with other voices. Not all voices are easy. Some voices go against each other's natural tendencies. So how do we work with that? And how do we collaborate with people that have different voice types? How do we create the best teams possible, uh, utilizing all of the different voices on our team? And then lastly, excuse me, lastly, there are things that will be kind of like the kryptonite of this being able to be ran flawlessly, not flawlessly, but being ran within your organization. And we touch base on those because we want people to understand like there's going to be things that work against you in your pursuit to make this happen. And this is how you get through those, and this is how you work through those things. So those are kind of all of the different workshops and parts of what transforming team communication is all about.
Nice. Well,
Uh,
you mentioned a
yeah,
couple things. So one of them you mentioned the word voices. So tell us what those. I think we talked about it a little bit last time, but remind us what are voices in the giant lexicon, and how do we
yes.
figure out like what voice order we are?
So there's an assessment that we take at the very beginning, and then part of workshop one is you will go through this and you will kind of self-assess based off of the things that you learn, right? And from that, there are five different voice types. So there's a nurturer, a creative, a guardian, a connector, and a pioneer. So each voice type has certain attributions, or each voice type is like the champion of a certain type of thing. So, for example, a nurturer is the champion of the people. Like they're all about relational harmony.
Hmm.
Okay. Creatives, they're champion of like future ideas and innovation. Uh, Tony happens to be a creative. Uh, a guardian, they are really big on like due diligence, asking questions, and then asking questions about the questions to make sure that they get the right answer. Connectors, I am a connector. We are all about relational networks, collaboration, people. Um, I know a guy who knows a guy if you need a thing done, that type of a thing.
Mhm.
And then pioneers. Pioneers are really big on strategic vision, problem solving, resource oriented. So basically, our team self-assesses, and then we go through workshop one. And after workshop one, they can kind of reassess what their self-assessment was to see if anything needs to change within their voice.
Nice. So then, so after we kind of get an understanding of, so in workshop one, we're understanding what the voices are, what they're the champions of, kind of what they feel like, so that we can
Yep.
understand, like, is this me or is this not me? What do we do in workshop two? What does workshop two look like?
Workshop two is all about like understanding all about your voice. So it's called the power of your voice. And it's what do you bring with your voice to your team? It also teaches us like the negative impact of our voices. So um, we all have what are called weapon systems. And if we're not careful, it's easy for us to let those weapon systems out from a collaboration and leadership and team communication standpoint. So it kind of teaches us about that. Um, and then how to just,
So it really brings awareness to
yeah, absolutely.
strengths of others, and then potential natural tendency downfalls, and helps start creating bridges between people.
Absolutely.
Nice. So and then
Absolutely.
so we do that. What's third workshop about? So we've got five of these in this, and then we'll talk at
Yep.
the end. We'll talk a little bit about how we implement this, how long it takes typically to get through all five of these. So
Sure.
what's workshop three about?
Workshop three is the art of collaboration. And basically, that is all about enhancing your team's communication. Um, how to leverage the strengths of each person on the team, how to enable each person on their team to bring the best to the team,
Mm-hmm.
and then how to increase capacity in general.
Yeah, a good example of like how to leverage voices is, so I'm a creative pioneer, so I'm very future oriented, I'm very logic driven. So when we do team communications, I'm not the person that should really be the person writing what we should do, because in my head we're already there, we're already moving on to the next thing. Let's just
Yep.
go. And all of our present oriented, uh, high emotional IQ people, um, they don't that doesn't get uh, accepted well, because they want to know the details. They want to know how it impacts us today. How does this impact all the people? All of the questions that should be asked, they will ask well. So when we an example of when we do change, we recently did a large change here at Rocket Clicks, from how are we going to operate our HR team. Uh, I had version one that I wrote up, and I passed that off to several people on our team that are not future oriented logic driven. They were more present oriented, emotion driven, and we created a way better communication to the team, because it didn't necessarily, I didn't draft it, and all the things that were on it after I saw my version, which was like 2 lines. This is the change. Um, it was way better written, way better received, way less concerns, because those voices were looking around the corner on, like, here's all the things that everybody's gonna be concerned about. Oh, I'm not concerned about all those at all.
Yep.
Good thing you were involved. So that's about how do we leverage each other, practically, because like you might have a good idea, you might be way out in front, but if you're not leveraging each other, you're likely leaving people in your wake. Is a good way
Yep.
to describe
That's
it.
exactly it. Yep. That's exactly it.
Cool. So what's workshop four about?
Workshop four is called Optimizing Team Performance. And basically, this is where we get into the conversation of like the characteristics of really high performing teams. And honestly, who doesn't want that,
Yeah.
right? So I love workshop four because, getting through workshop one, two, and three, as we take people through it, there's you will learn along the way and people will start to understand more. And I
Mhm.
think when we get to workshop four and we start talking about like high performing teams and like what those characteristics are, what those look like, and how each voice connects to those, people really start to get it. And that's when I see people really start to get excited,
Mhm.
um, because what we're doing is we're really uh, talking about the importance and putting emphasis on like team alignment in workshop 4. So workshop 4 is a great one for that for so many reasons because those things connect to businesses in so many different ways.
Yeah. Nice. And then you mentioned the word kryptonite. No, that's kind of the last workshop. So these are kind of the
I did.
dangers
Yeah,
of
so
what's workshop 5 about?
yeah, basically it's the 5 most common reasons that a team won't fulfill their full potential.
Nice.
And it's giving people a heads up on, hey, this is going to happen through the progression of creating a team like
Hmm.
this. This is how you can be aware of it. This is how you work through those things to hopefully lessen the impact. We can't make those things not happen because it's naturally they're going to happen,
Yeah.
but we can change and we can be ready for them and adjust if we know kind of what to look for and how to work through that.
Nice. So let's talk a little bit next about how do we implement this? So like what does that implementation look like? How do we do these meetings? How long
Absolutely.
does it take? Like what does that look like?
So we have a meeting. We have different groups of people. Well, these are video-led meetings. So there is a video series that we watch that we'll pause the video and there's like a time for team collaboration. We talk through things, we work through things. Um, and each meeting is an hour every week. Um, and I don't really try to push like we have to get through this today.
Hmm.
Um, from that standpoint, because when conversation naturally starts to happen, I like to let that conversation within our team flow because that's when learning happens, that's when growth happens from a communication standpoint. So I let that naturally go. So they're video led series.
How many people are generally in these?
So I would say anywhere from like 6, I any less than 6, like sometimes you get that awkward quietness, and I I'm very good at just sitting and being awkward and quiet if I need to be, but from a communication and a leadership perspective, like it's not really what Giant's all about. So I would say 6, anywhere up to like 10 to 12.
Yeah.
You don't want to have too many like people in on the conversation because then it's really hard for everybody to get their voice heard.
Yeah.
So I think what I've found is anywhere from like that 6 to 10 to 12 people is really a good size.
Nice.
Um,
So you're
each
meeting.
session lasts, I was
Yeah.
gonna
Go
say
ahead.
each session lasts an hour.
Got it.
We meet every week. And I would say like the duration of all of the workshops for transforming team communication, I would say it takes anywhere from like 4 to 5 months
Yeah.
to get
Nice.
through.
So through that process, the team's getting to know each other more. They're developing relationships, and like in the so you're meeting weekly. You're playing a video. You're pausing it, and then you guys are kind of workshopping that content and sharing. And how does that land with
Yep.
different perspectives? So each week, like the team is learning more about voices that are different from theirs or similar to theirs, and how the world is processed through
And
their.
what's really cool is like you can see progress throughout Giant throughout the duration of that 4 to 5 months.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about something one week, and then when we talk again the next week, people will bring up, oh, that thing that we talked about last week, like there's a practical application of that happened since we last met. This is
Yeah.
what it looked like. We're like, cool, and that's how we can learn from each other along the way. It's not just Giant isn't just a training.
Yeah.
Giant is also a way for us to learn from each other throughout this practical application of this 4 to 5 months.
Yeah. The other thing that's been um, cool with Giant is how it applies to your relationships generally, because it's not just your work relationships. It gives you a lens to see the world, see through more clearly all of your
Hmm.
relational interactions in the world. And like
Absolutely.
maybe you have frustrations with somebody, and they may be more built in like your both of your natural tendencies, and you're unaware of that, and now you might be more aware of it, and it might give you a little more patience and tools to lean into that conversation and
Yep.
approach it differently, and literally change the dynamic of the relationship. So it's been
Yeah. This
valuable
isn't
in my
just a
life with my wife, and I know it's been helpful for the team.
Absolutely. This isn't just a work thing. Like the things that you learn from transforming team communication to Giant in general, those are things that you can take with you in other areas of your life. As you go through this, you learn about like different voice types or different they think differently from like a some voices care about the immediate future and or like right now, and some people care about the future a lot more.
Yeah.
As you meet people and you learn about them and you hear them talk, like I can pretty much tell like, okay, this person is a future thinking person. So that's how I'm going to be successful in this conversation and talking to them. And I learned that through Giant. And the rest of our team is learning that as well.
How would you? So as it pertains to the point of this podcast is how do we help local small businesses drive more revenue and improve their business?
Hmm.
How does this particularly um, aid and support in that?
Yeah. Your team, especially when you're a small business, is going to be one of the most important things for your business. And making sure that your team is aligned and that everybody's speaking the same language and everybody understands how to communicate with each other, knowing that that multiple people aren't necessarily the same. They think differently, they act differently, and that's okay. But they understand how to communicate with each other. Um, that's going to be mind blowing from you from a productivity standpoint, from a business growth standpoint. If you have an unaligned team that are doing unaligned tasks, using different phrases and verbiage for everything that they do, your business isn't going to be in business for very long because your team is going to fail. People are going to leave. People are going to get frustrated. So making sure that everybody is aligned is going to keep you. It's going to help keep you in business. It's going to help you grow your
Hmm.
business.
Yeah. So really, is that I know we use this for like the two big, like if we're going to boil this down to metrics, it would be how do we improve our retention and how do we increase our productivity, and that will show up because we're having the real conversations, we're solving the right problems, the team is more engaged because they see us as uh, investing in them and their growth. I think it was Henry Ford that said you have two options with your team. You can be afraid to train them because they might leave, or you can not train them and they can stay. And
Right.
his perspective, and I think he did okay, was I'd rather train them and give them the opportunity to leave, but actually create that culture versus not train them and then I have the problem in my business and they
Yep.
are still here. um,
Yeah.
so this really helps us attack those two very specific problems: is how do we improve our team member retention, how do we increase our overall productivity, and how do we build that next person up mentality within our team so as we grow we're able to absorb the opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a quote, I can't remember who said it, but in business sometimes the question is, I don't know if we can afford to do that. And when it comes to this, it's like I don't know if you can afford not to.
Yeah.
Like you can't afford not to invest in your team.
Yeah.
And the way that we've done that is through Giant, and transforming team communication has been vital in us to build the team that we have.
Nice. Awesome. Well, appreciate it, Matt. Any closing thoughts before we wrap up?
No, I know that we'll be back to talk about some other things in depth, so I'm excited for that, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Awesome. Appreciate it. Thank you, sir.